much of the private investments we did not see as we desire to create more employment. We see that most of the expenditure goes for the salaries payment.
So we know that the debt to GSDP ratio is rising. With the ratio ever increasing, will it not affect our credit ratings? I mean, do you see the initiatives and the programs brought in by the government well strategized in order to ensure that we have financial stability and growth?
If the way they have projected it, it is properly implemented, then yes, the efforts are towards that.
Means inequality is growing in Meghalaya also very, very badly. Especially, we don't know, 6th schedule protects us from outsiders, but do we protect against our own exploiters, our own people who are exploiting us?
Kublai parlok ni pediang song bhai phi shagani ka program ke jongi ka bangi khot ka Rynsan Iathir ka program ka bangi Iathir nginya tai nya but nginya ai jing mod halor ki mat ki pair ki paktai ke imlang ka salang ka jongi but benta kan ti nginya kren halor ka Mang Tyngka nani ka budget jong usnem arajar arpusan balawan ra the menteri rang ba jelau kon rat ki sangma minshim tayo ha ka ying dal par thau an Ti hakani ka Rynsan matas nginya le ban batai halor ka ka ta budget but ki kita ki mat trikam ki badon ha ka ta budget ki bala banyarap ban kenti we ka yo akot jong ga jelahi prakwe ti ko ban pinchukun mayo phi ba kani ka Mang Tyngka ka di ka Mang Tyngka baduna kumba 8,000 kundai klor Tyngka jong usnem 8,000 arpusan but ki nong kren mentas ngi ki don na ki tenat trikam ba pair ngan itu eki shapi sashpang nei mentang ile ban tua jingmut na ki halor ki kita ki jing product jong sarkar ki ba khatu ki la shisha ne em ban kinjo shaka ta thong ban pelong ka Meghalaya ka ta $10 billion economy. So we welcome all of you to our studio, and I have just briefed our viewers about the topic of discussion today. It's going to be on the budget, which was presented by our Chief Minister last week. And as we all know, it's a fiscal deficit of rupees 2,029 crore. So we will try to simplify the budget for our viewers because most of us are common people, not from the economics or the business or the finance background. So we don't really have an idea about the content of the budget. So we are here to discuss and simplify things for them. So Tiparlok ngidon menta akadiang jonga ngidon ni Professor Vishakha Bansal ibadai Assistant Professor ha Department of Finance and Account jongka IIM Shillong. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Then ngidon ru ya Professor Utpal De na Department of Economics Nehu. Nang tangi don ru ya iba bhoktra mauro ibadai coordinator jongka Nesfas bahka jokapor ibalong ru unong tho. De Ni pediang sngobhaya pi shakani ka program ga jongi. We welcome you to our studio and we express our gratitude for your time and to be here with us and discuss this very important topic. So to start with, I would just like to ask each and every one of you, like in brief, if you can just explain to us, how does the budget look to you? I mean, in brief. On the surface, how does it look to you? Because for me, who is neither an academician or an economist, it looks impressive. I mean, 11.4 GSDP growth over the last few years, it looks quite attractive. But practically speaking, whether that number of figures, both past and present, are really impressive or just a mere showpiece, I don't know. I leave it all to all of you for expert opinions. Professor Vishakha, how do you look at it?
Thank you, Iban, for your question. So, see, for me, frankly speaking, I found it very integrated budget, and it's a future-oriented, growth-oriented budget, very promising. The way it will be executed, as if the things which are promised here, they are quite actually impressive. In a way, because it's talking about growth from each perspective, all perspectives are covered. And as we talk about the, $10 billion economy, I think since last year, this was raised. Since last year's budget, this is the agenda. So keeping that in mind, when I look at the budget, it seems to me that, yes, the move is towards that, at least the efforts are there to achieve that level of GSDP.
if you look at the budget, what is budget all about? It is the proposed expenditure and income. It's a statement of that, isn't it? So it does not mean that much of expenditure, whatever is proposed, will actually be materialized. It may be more, it may be less, always it happens. But we get some idea about the intention of the government, what it wants to do. And looking at the proposed allocation, you can say that it is in line with the budget that is undertaken by the center also, that to address most of the sustainable development goals, that is there. Only that timing of the expenditure, that I want to mention, it should be done properly. It is looking good. And that how to integrate all these, as for example, that poverty eradication, gender budgeting, then natural resource conservation or the environmental management, climate change issue. But how to integrate this and to bring together to make a sustainable growth of employment. There's a industrial, some concessions given, very good. That is subsidy and other incentive. But that has also been given earlier. But still, much of the private investments we did not see as we desire to create more employment. We see that most of the expenditure goes for the salaries payment. So capital expenditure this year in the proposed budget increased much. Especially many of these, or much of it, will go for the infrastructure development, like your connectivity improvement. But that connectivity, especially border area, interstate and intrastate, what I say, that is also a good thing. But still, I want that they should look into the reduction of the cost of transportation, as there is a long pending issues and conflicts going on the development of the railway, and that is the only alternative I don't see here, and the air connectivity also. The stress is there, efforts are on, but still not happening. So time has a great value. If the some project which could be done in 3, 4 or 5 years, if it takes 20 years, better late than never, we say. But still we will be lagging behind, because if others or other states do in 5 years and we take 20 years, then definitely we will not progress at that rate to catch up them. So I expect that they will do that. Sometimes problem of land acquisitions, some conflicts, so they should resolve as early as possible. Even that connectivity with the border station highways, like that Dauki, Shillong, that corridors, this one 4-lane, you can see newspaper also coming, this, that. I am not blaming, but this is like that, lingering. It should be expedited. But government is trying to do that, because I saw that some infrastructure on the border area developed for the export, import, facilitation, all these centers are going on. So very good. And that should be backed by the power generation. That stress is also there in this budget. Internet connectivity, because today itself I wanted to go through and browse something. I saw that internet is down. So these things should facilitate, because many of the economic transactions nowadays done through online. And if you cannot do quickly all this, whether it is a railway ticket collection, air ticket collection, or whether merchandise payment UPI through. So these are very good aspects that they are trying to emphasize. Another is the sustainable tourism issues, how to conserve the resources as well as the improve the utilization of the best resources. And I want to stress on that not only that private it is not coming, if industries not come to that level, that government should come forward and invest, especially some projects related to tourism. And based on the tourism itself, Meghalaya can flourish significantly. That is realized by the government also, as the hotels has improved a lot. Connectivity improved, but that cost cutting of the connectivity can attract more people, and through that more employment generation is possible. Another is the industries by using the local resources. Your sustainable use of the resource does not mean that you do not use the forest or mine. It is being exploited, but its contribution I saw very minimum. That can unaccounted, and it should be improved, because if you, instead of exporting directly limestone or coal, if you make more industries based on that local resources, then employment will be generated and value addition will be there. And that may help in flourishing that. And secondly, that value addition plus the market base, how to integrate the market. I am facilitating for to attract the private industries or private people. But not only that, your tax concession or subsidy is enough. Whoever will come forward, they will first see whether your labor resources are available or you have to bring from outside, whether there is a market, or for that also you have to send your output to outside, that another transport cost will be there. So profit margin and its competitiveness with the similar industries in other places. So those things one has to address, and then only it will. So budget has given some direction towards that. Overall, I think it is okay and good one, but
depends on how we actually implement it.
action and implementation, it will do better then. Thank you.
So when I look at the budget momenta kumbang ngapay mas payaka speech bawa ya konrat sangma hapo ka assembly pangapay uru ka document bay faenga halor ki expenditure ha indi yo kung ngathara imam inskran ha kato kwa unkan halor ko ka bangsang na ka job creation ba ka no ki job ki create na ki investment bagi le the pay menta ni ka budget menta in pay don ki sectors by your let's say the third highest allocation pay menta kadika okay kadika rural development ba community and rural development the pay hang to community and rural development pinya iba ka allocation jong ka sarkar menta ka snem halor ka narega kadika job guarantee scheme 600 crore and if we pay let's say mishwa 2008 1920 kadno ka allocation ha ka snem 1000 crore naka 1000 crore pila duna menta 600 crore te pila slash ka budget kumba half hanarega the publicly jinkli ya ikon ya chief minister hapo ka assembly ngam tip manubang alak menta manubakli ikli ba how will you create the jobs you're talking about? How will those jobs come? Is chief minister hakajoba pi ai lenter I jer keteng borok scheme. Ka narega, ka let's say ka focus program, ka prime. If you look at all those programs, man they borok scheme. Don't think ka narega ka badika job guarantee. Quick scheme, they're going to give you training. They're going to support you, let's say I subsidy pi. They ban sing kam jong jong. Henry, the only ka job creation, job guarantee kiri na ka narega. Mentana kan narega pila ot 500 crore. Hajaka ban pinkiu pila pan ot kapisa. But kumbayong isar menta, like I was saying, it is just like you are talking initial estimate. Hadin pila ban pindunaru. Let's say narega which is so important, you are slashing the budget. Let's say miswa pila ban support kumbashi lak kibriu na kan narega. Menta bila slash ka budget tang san tang let's say san pawajar. Na kan narega rupiyo ka administrative cost. Na menta itu kibriu ki bateri hasokar ban implement ka program. Nang turo let's say pimsha pedang sespangut ki break ki bateri hato ka department ban implement ka narega nang to mentai bala aduna ka allocation kamut nang turo hapun duna ki nang tray kam te kamut ka turo aduna te piong pin create ki job ma investment is very good. I'm very happy with investment, but how will the jobs be created? Because the pick job creation, the guaranteed program is narega, Henry. Narega has been slashed by half, more than half. But dan sa kiwi dang idon po nilapan kren halor ka the hipit ka speech jong konrat sang mamo. How many times he mentioned job? What kinds of job? So that for me is very important. The hipit ka presentation jong budget is very good. SDG goals very important because right now we go in the 2030 program. We need SDG goals. Henry, what is more important? Like you can have GDP also can grow by $10 billion, but does GDP growth correspond to growth in employment by what percentage? That also is very important. You can have a growth without jobs, like a jobless growth, right? Right now, what is happening right now? Namagata don kam haban pay bakat not liki job, good paying job mo. Kila create na kanika budget. In my opinion, maybe they are doing it, but I don't see the evidence of that. Ang pay jaka speech by IE Chief Minister haka Assembly. Katang laban kren hadin sibet na don post rai.
Namar ba dang hinin kasingi hapo yung dabar tawaan o Conrad ula ong ba ya kajing kadi bakli da unong stoy MLA Gabriel Walang had asked the chief minister in the last 2 to 3 years how many jobs have been created in the state, because you had mentioned about creating 5 lakh job by 2028. So the Chief Minister responded and said that in the last 2 years, they have managed to create 2.3 jobs, but there were no specifics as to in which sectors are these youth being absorbed. So that is where your statement came. I mean, like your opinion is saying that, you know, if these youth are being employed in unorganized sector, how secure is their job?
Not just secure, because you look at the allocation itself, no, the NREGA, which is the most important job guarantee scheme, job creation, demand creation in the rural economy. You slash it by half. Teka mo damdan ka NREGA, just paas ni kalong guaranteed employment, nun ka pisa. Katu ka bay nang wapiyo ng NREGA, pira, pibu a pocket, pilit, hadukan pilit tijing tit. Manta ka tu kam dan syuk, lalu kam dan syuk katu ka bay nang, te pilit no, pilit hadukan dan syuk pisa pantit, teka dukan ro kam dan ka profit syuk manta. Take affect like a rural economy overall. So NREGA is very important. Slashing it by more than half is not a good thing.
That is true, but there is another aspect of the Manrega. Manrega cannot be perpetual also. It is not a job guarantee, does not mean that it is not the creation of job. You are giving job like that. So suppose some rural roads construction. So where no road, you have to put something, so you engage people. Some ponds reformation, where depth was less, you have to do. So like that, its another objective was to create rural resources. And if the resources are generated, suppose was one road connectivity improved there through Manrega. So those people who are engaged as a laborer, if they get suppose small vehicle for transport, so next year they should say, I don't need your Manrega job. I can run my family on the basis of my new instrument I got. The ponds created or lake created, so some families may come forward and together go for fishery. And they say that next time I don't need Manrega job because I can survive on my fishery. Once the resource is created, another few years they can survive on that. That is the actual job creation. Otherwise, only pay money and they do mitti dalo, what we call. Again, next year, same work you do. It is not a creation. The resources should be created on which people should survive, so that in future they say no to Manrega. There is the actual success. That should happen. So whether it is happening or not, then only their allocation can come down, all these things.
Like crime is also the entrepreneurship kind of a development. So actually the real development will come from there only. Any kind of provision like pensions also. So recently we had some, so there were people were talking about pensions. No, pension is a burden on a government, but since a lot of financial investment avenues have been created, so now pension, that is why maybe we stopped from the government, and there is an NPS scheme, and apart from that, you can start investing your own money. So the provision has to be there. So that provision, like we see, there is a lot of provisions are there. So that way, it's a motivational factor also, that we can see that now people will be like, because now I don't have that scheme, okay, I should search something else. And I could see a lot of that ways, you know, for example, sports. So a lot of emphasis is there on the sports and the youth of, so that way demographic dividend is quite high here, yes. 72%. 72%, yeah. So now, so these are like, for example, in my local community where I could, people who are there, who are helping us in house and everything, so they were, you know, participating very enthusiastically in sports activities. And there are so many,
can go in a commercial mode.
And they were, in fact, most of the times they were taking off and they were going for interviews. They were, I mean, from your local heads who are, so they were arranging meetings for them, for providing them more, you know, permanent kind of jobs. So that kind of effort we were able to even see. So that ways, so where you're talking about NREGA budget, so I think this is what I found also on what sir also mentioned, that there is a lot of emphasis on now self-growth, education in fact. Yes. The moment you are educating, so that's a parallel thing. You are educating the youth at one place, and on the some other side you are creating opportunities where they can invest. So we keep having a lot of programs where for entrepreneurial or startups, people come from for training to us. Similarly, like sir was telling on this railways. So recently, IIM Shillong has signed a PM Gati Shakti plan, you know, this MOU with the government. So for, you know, for creating a research chair position to plan all these things in. So this is just, this happened just, you know, 3 days back.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is why we are seeing the real efforts being made
I
for the
think
whole
one
Northeastern
point I
region.
like to agree with that because the focus now is more on self-employment, right? Entrepreneurship. Now, self-employment entrepreneurship, let's say kita focus mo. Focus program ko mayo na ka speed yung CM. Piton, let's say Prime Hub 50 per year, 210 startup, 5,500 entrepreneurs mo. Kamut kina kini aspa spotly kini ki company, let's say this small companies like entrepreneurship, right? They have more than 5,000 entrepreneurs. Now, you have that list. Now, what is the turnover of those? How much, let's say I'm a proprietor of that enterprise, how much am I paying the people who are working with me? Kung mamantang ada yung, let's say, malik mo dyan ka company, mga penmi, mga katno nga siyo kibri batay hapo dyan nga, 10,000, 1,000, 2,000. Are they getting any social security benefit? Are they getting, let's say, HRA? Are they getting like provident fund, which is not possible if not less than 20%? Let's say, are they getting any allowance? Damyo kito boro, kanong kumno. Mentapin pek nga kumbahan ni kibun kibri mentah shulong de pek inya rapido. Ya kan dup ki ki ba pilek ayu. Pihak RP dah berusaha sini ngalai umne step meski ngalai terekam let's say contractual hak sarkar mo soal department KWG department step kan ki kembah nyoba je pra beje ngalamin aying nganya RP do ngalai let's say ngalai kamai kan det mar kan det betul ngalai sha office nga hading kata ngan sawan phai biang ngan selek biang ngan sanya biang RP do kembak anu beje piwan dep kakam bero sipu beje jan biet kamut uwe ubri utri ar lati kambale bamla pendap nak kakam Tikini entrepreneurship look up, it's good. I support entrepreneurship completely. But the turnover, how much of them are actually successful? How much are they paying the people working under them? And Ray menta dam don kapisa. Let's say menta ka ni kapor dun ka, lalang ajan pili ka school. Pihap don kapisa man tet kot, hap I fees. Let's say don kapisa pendap hayeng, let's say kani ka bayeng, ka bay Let's say don kapisa let's say meno yo opang jur, le no to kapor. Da itu iba itu ikong baterai, bap manra pisa hayeng, da yo opang jur. Hapin mi kapisa ba pila penlang khatsan hajar apo wajak anu pilaan penlang man katayo man kabanay. So basically jobs creation is very important because see I mean like the purchasing power is not there in the people. The demand is very low. When the demand is very low, economy will not grow. Like sir was saying, if you want to come and invest in Meghalaya, you need to see the market. But the market is low because demand is not there because people don't have the purchasing power. So therefore you don't come man pin ay kapisa ya kibru ha pocket jungki. Therefore you need to start in my opinion mentapin page mo kanika ka 10 mission jong gaman Meghalaya. 10 mission hangni idon borok sipoling mission. One mission is missing from there. What is that? Provide decent job to everyone. That is not there. They pick a mission 10 mission. It's not this job is not mentioned in the 10 mission. That don't come kumbayong star mo let's say namdan kam kanika let's say PDS ru. Namdan ka pisa laban tin iyo. Namdan ka pisa namdan kam PDS, namdan kam QA facilities de. Namakata job is very important. It's the beginning. If jobs are there for all of us in terms of good job, like let's say minta isa din no hikay na ni hui mo din no hikay na IIM. So you know the salary is good. Why? Because they are qualified for that. Henry bun mangikan ginyo to salary ngimyo to salary. Kung bakit pe hang ni ha kanika speed jong konak sangmat tang lai jaga ong job. One in the smart city, I think science city ngala bakla mo. Amo speak dia. We are going to create 50,000 IT hubs. Shillong knowledge city mo 50,000 well-paying job. What does it mean? Coming back, 50,000 people are going to get job which is more than 50,000 rupees per month. I hope so. Or is it like 10,000 rupees per month? I don't know. Are they going to get, let's say, good social security? Kinyo, kito baro allowance, TADA, kito baro, let's say, health insurance, kinyo, di kinyo. Hangni ki ong 50,000 new Shillong knowledge city. Lanu kan dapat knowledge city. Lanu kan wan ni kam. But let's say kanema, ka project New Shillong township will create 20,000 jobs. What kind of jobs are they? Are they daily wage worker jobs? Daily wage jobs? Are there any social security within those jobs? I don't know. And so maybe one thing nekadika 1 lakh job opportunities under focus. What is job opportunities? What is job? What do you mean by job opportunities? 1 lakh doesn't mean 1 lakh new jobs. I mean this is for me it's a bit difficult to understand because I think the budget the way it looks very good. Focus on all the sectors. Mang kabiang ka budget Henry they pay halor ka job ngan I tang lai chaka. CM jangi I kren halor ka job. Kiwi jaga em kren halor ka job. He just expecting and invest ka pisa ka job on sami hi. Is that a rational expectation that I'll just invest the money and I hope job good paying jobs will be created? I know it will be, but to the extent that we really require in the state right now, I'm not sure with the speech of the CM there is something on that. But there is good intention.
Nowadays, like people they can't turn to the public sector anymore. I mean, government jobs are saturated. So now it's only the private sector. But we don't have enough industries and companies in the state of Meghalaya to provide that kind of job to the youth, unlike other states, other major states. So how do we fill the gaps, and how do we provide job, decent job, like Bhaktaram had mentioned? Ma'am, do you have any
So I again, on the basis of the budget, at least the way it is done, like the way you said that industries are not there, so focus is there, ease of doing business and investment promotion in the private sector. Then, as you mentioned, it's a seventh point where they're saying engaging and employing youth. Yeah, so that way is what you're saying, that the clarity is not there of what kind of jobs. Initially based on the qualifications and possibilities, so that kind of matching, I hope, would be done. So to me as an academician it appears, or to my senses this appears this. But I think what you said, similarly empowering women and gender budget is also there. So that way is again I feel, so the way it is implemented, that is very, very important. And if growth comes, if industries comes, and lot of such kind of jobs initially will be created, and slowly, in every home, when somebody will go to school properly and get the education, ultimately, yeah, it's a long term plan. Everything in a very, very short term, everything I don't think so can be promised. But yes, if sustainable efforts are made, continuous efforts are made, then yes, in future, that is why I said it's a very future oriented kind of a budget. So to me, this is what appears.
Now, if we talk about the budget allocations, if you can see in the top 10 budget allocations, masa pen iya ki pat link ba ka presentation ka bala I o CM tingin sa pen iya ka screen, hang tung iba, we see that education tops the list. Around 3,539 crore is being allocated to education. But 63% goes to salary. So, Professor Utpal, do you think can the government make a difference with this just mere 37% of the budget? And because clearly in one of its mission 10 guarantees, the government had mentioned several initiatives and several programs, to promote what the government calls joyful learning and quality education at all levels.
No, yeah. Education expenditure, there is a salary expenditure, as you said, a major chunk of it goes. Remaining for the capital expenditure, like your building, school building, college building, connectivity issues also will be there, whether it comes there or other part, I don't know. Then other associated expenditure for the educational institutions, like your stationaries from there, many other things comes, even your water project also, clean water, children in school should get. I think the other projects are there, midday meal and others is a separate head, I think not under this. But still, as I said in the beginning, budget is a tentative allocation for an expenditure. So it may look that it is insufficient as per the requirement, but many of this capital expenditure infrastructure is not completed in 1 year. So suppose in a school building, it may take 3-4 years. So first year some allocation may go from there, again next year's budget it may cover. So that is one thing. Second is that if some area, suppose there is a lack or insufficiency is there, and still has to be project has to complete this year, the government can further enhance this, because it does not mean that you have to stick to that expenditure. Expenditure can be enhanced in the meantime. So how to do it? That is another thing. And here it is true that in Meghalaya now education is in the forefront in providing employment, since there is not much industry, and tourism is coming up. And I hope that through that connectivity project, tourism will further flourish. But not only connectivity, but you have to address the other issues. As I always say that suppose the tourist places, people do not know what are the utilities, what they know. Like if you go to Rajasthan, if you go to Andhra Pradesh, how they flourish the tourism. So here also you can imitate that. You have to reach out to the people through different means to attract them, that what are the advantages. Even many people can work as a guide also. You go to Andaman, even young children also, they are working as a guide like that. So for that, you have to have that type of training, like the multilingual. English is good here, but the other languages, if they learn, it will help them to get that type of job. They can facilitate, integrate, not only one thing. Like there is a stress on horticulture. So horticulture products farmers will do if you can avail those output in the tourist sites. So many of the visitors, they can buy that product. So one, like through Manrega, road is constructed, but what will be used for that road, for example? If the rural farmers, whatever outputs they make, like that lakadang, your turmeric, local exclusive output, you know that, the ginger exclusive one is there, which is different from other type of gingers, that has a different value. So there is a recently, I don't want to mention here, the many startup has come, and they are for the promotion of such type of things, and they are collecting and exporting bay leaf, or some of the products are that exclusive, the horticulture products for the Meghalaya. And not only that, based on these horticulture products or the floriculture, long back I had told that there is a huge scope of floriculture also here. If suppose some industries are also developed, if not big scale, at least in small scale, like your incense and other, that using the local floriculture product, then you can avail that road also for transportation. So the transporters will be benefited, even if it is a small scale. Suppose in the villages they get. So all round, then only integrated approach should be followed. Then
and
only
I see
it
stress
can
is also
help.
laid on skill development and vocational training.
Then indirectly that will generate employment. Direct employment, if you cannot do straight away, so that will help ultimately. But I think it is time taking still. It depends on how you are implementing the things.
So, Ba Bhakturam, since we're talking about education, ngite ba kayo ka jingmang ka bakam he banyak job kiwe kitna terkam jok sarkar. Henry kuapan kiliye pi halor ka namar hakawi ka jing thok ka jong pi kedo shaka tu ka kaipot ka baplat da ka PRS legislative research halor ka Meghalaya budget analysis 23-24 hakaba lakdo ba naki khatlai teli ki tna terkam ki badan kama ka sarkar plant linaki ki iba ka jingmang ka jingbha na bata jong ki kalasha ot no la ni ka khamdunai ka ka bakila kila they projected in the estimate. So my question is, why is this happening? Where is that money going? You know, when the actual money, the money that's being estimated, it's not projected in the actual budget. So where is that money going? Where is it spent?
Actually, the people ka document mga kato pila kan yon internet mo kado document hang to ki tho aban khatlai li ki ni sector key sector na khatlai ding ni key sector ki ot pisa na ka pratli ki sector, let's say 2021-22 budgetary estimate actual spending kal no among those sectors baki ot kapisa kadika education, sports, arts and culture, which means 11% of the budget was cut from the budgetary allocation to the actuals. Ma kamot pi ong pin spend ani henry pin kamduna pi spend the pay 2022-23 agriculture and allied sector mau kanige police but social welfare and nutrition hang to ki ot pisa but that is also a revise. Actuals may be much more, we don't know. Mentam sims nam luk la because education has been an important component for the government of Meghalaya mo kini borok kala isnam education has been highest henry. There are times when they cut, they can increase also, so we don't know menta pila ong pinong ka highest education henry kat bang one ka actuals ngim tip kat no kala kin sa ot balik ki ot kala abandai bala sa don kiwi ki sector baka cost kala q don kam ha khong sang to pi divert ka fund nang ine pi pai ki sector kum kala say transport let's say kan no kum ba like spa crore 2021 extra ki have spent ki ongin spend kum ba khasaw spa kin spend kum khadru spa news spa hai kali ka to ka way one component which I feel is very important, debt repayment ma now pin pay haka 2021 ki ongin siu 771 crore as a debt haka to was mo henry kat nung siu dala ada kot 2216 you said you will pay 700, you are paying more than 2000 crore in that year debt repayment kamut almost 1500 rupees extra you are paying as debt on that year mo some part of the money but pay education rural development ki sector ban siu kanika ba ram ba shim hang to kali hang to ban siu hang to maybe you are saying this year pi ong ba in siu 2876 rupees as debt in siu kanika 2876 as debt henry kat no pishim In the estimate itself, I government of Meghalaya, capital receipts, I think borrowing is part of that. 3,557. Kajing shimram mentakasnem, kadang kiu shushu. Piang pensiu kumba araja praspa Henry shimram kumba lai haja spa. They can accumulate mangapur. Piang pensiu araja praspa Henry let's say can estimate the one actual kasnem financial year maybe you're paying 4,000 crores. They katoka pisaba pila allocate ke sectors, important sectors, pia pendivert mensuya karam. But you don't come karam, don't come karam because we need borrowing. But how sustainable it is and how is it diverting money from other places where it's required? I mean, we need borrowing. We can't do without borrowing. I agree with that. But how much? How much is good? Because some money, extra money is going to pay for the borrowings from the sector which you have already allocated. So maybe the people, education might not be the highest. Maybe there might be some cut out there. I don't know. I'm just assuming more. Kalau abang kiwi sector, but kiwi sector pila I mentaka allocation. You thought they're important, but then you're going to cut money from there to pay for more for the borrowings. So that is one sector maybe.
Yeah, it's just like when you said that it's true that the amount of money that we spend on expenditure, we have to get that through loans. So loans, it is a necessary evil.
Necessary evil. So, but then you have to pay a lot more than what you are promising. You're saying you paid this year 2,800. Maybe you have to pay 4,000 crores. Yes. So where's the extra 2,000 crores going to come from? It's going to come from the other sectors. So that's going to be a problem.
Exactly. So Professor Vishaka, since we're talking about the budget estimates and the actuals, and since Bhaktaraman stated that much of this money is being diverted from one sector to another to fill in the financial requirements in the other sector, but don't you think like this diversion of funds from one sector to another might hamper the growth or the growth of that particular sector or sectors?
So this diversion is happening real time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, when we're executing the whole plan, there is always a possibility of requirements, maybe inefficiency sometimes, which we will always learn from and avoid in future, and maybe the need of one sector may be high. Yeah. So that diversion is okay. I mean, it's possible, and as far as it's a conscious decision, it is okay, right? So because ultimately that is it's not a one-time thing that we are creating, it's a continuous process. Growth and development is a continuous process, right? So like whatever I could understand from your question and whatever I could little bit understand from your conversation, so that is we can't see that it is moving from here to here, and it's not like that. So finance itself is the provision is one thing, like you were mentioning something about the debt also a lot, which I could understand from your conversation. So debt is one part of it, because when we prepare a balance sheet, so one side, so we have for these we have capital receipts and capital expenditures and revenue expenditures and revenue receipts. So basically this is one part of the planning, and fiscal deficit is basically a deficit that we need for so in your case, in this case, I mean what I studied was that revenue receipts are higher than the revenue expenditure. So basically you are using the debt, the fiscal deficit is for planning the capital expenditures, right? And in any growth oriented economy, whereas there is growing economy, you will need debt, right? It's a concept which can, obviously the objective of a corporate and the objective of the government are little different. There we are talking about welfare of the people also, and then sometimes everything is not giving you revenue in future. But in a way, once the economy will develop more, then a point of time may come when we don't know, that when we do not need. But fiscal deficit as such is not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Debt is not a bad thing as far as we are able to channelize it properly, because ultimately if it is used for capital expenditure, that capital expenditure will generate revenue in future. For example, we were talking about roads also. So roads will help in better tourism. Like today, if I have to travel to Doki, there are two routes, right? So one is right now under construction and is a very, very difficult route. Another one, while we come back from route which is touching Jowai, so that is very nicely built road. So idea is that moment tourism will happen, a lot of money will flow in through that medium also. So similarly on other grounds, wherever you are using that money for a capital expenditure, and for example building industry, so this will generate a lot of revenue in future. So this is how deficit or debts are not bad. Corporate takes a lot of debt. For example, I'll just give you an example, just for to create some kind of analogy. If we talk about these tech firms, they're cash rich, they don't need debt. But if I talk about manufacturing concerns, they always need debt. So that debt is something which is always a part of that. So the idea is that at which stage of growth are we, right? And and also what I saw, it's not very out of the bounds. The fiscal deficit is not something which is bulging out. Okay, it's within its bounds, and whatever was planned, even it is less than that, which is projected as of now.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, fiscal deficit is not merely a bad thing, because it's not a new thing for the state of Meghalaya, and definitely not for a developing country like India. So, but my question is, if we look at the budget, the budget this year, the fiscal deficit is around 2029 crores. So, will this create more burden on debt burden on the state, considering the fact that Meghalaya is a deficit state and it requires?
No, so first of all, we generally talk in terms of percentages, like absolute terms doesn't generally mean something. And also we need a comparison when we are talking about it. So like for example, in India itself, our fiscal deficit, the planned fiscal deficit is 5.1% this year. And we plan to slowly lower it. So similarly, that is what I was saying, that it is within bounds. It was earlier expected to be 4.1%, I think, and it is now 3.83%, which is being projected. So debt as such in itself is not bad, but if it is not properly utilized, then the burden comes up. And also, why the debt entails cost, from whether it's internal borrowings, as we say, if a lot of internal borrowings are there, then for private investment, not much money will be left. Similarly, if there are external borrowings, so we have to pay something, for that. So maybe we are, shedding away the costlier debt for, cheaper debt later on. So all these things are planned. And in fact, I think with a new economic analysis team set up in Meghalaya, which is doing a lot of economic analysis, I think more meaningful steps and plans will be made. So that way is, again, so debt is not bad. We do consider even, right now easing money for any business, giving away loans at lower interest rates or some kind of, so this is again to help you build a business initially, and once you have a plan in future where you will start generating revenue, ultimately you will be able to pay off the debt. And it's not necessary, some companies may always remain with the debt, but the cost of debt should remain less as far as companies are concerned, for example, right? So the cost of debt should remain less in comparison to the earned return on that kind of investment that is happening. So this is how, if initially we need money, we can't leave those sectors, or we can't leave capital expenditure. Otherwise, we are in the vicious circle where it is difficult to come out. Hence, that way fiscal deficits are not bad.
I think that's why I think it's very important, because see, it's a burden that we'll have to shed anytime. We'll have to shed in the future in any case. So therefore, very long future, I'm saying burden of repayment, because the debt burden will always be there. So the point is, how do you use it properly? Like you said, it's very important to use it properly, because it is a burden. You can't do anything about it. So how do we use it properly? My suggestion would be, can we have, let's say, investment, one column, then sector, one column, and then how much jobs created by that investment? What kind of jobs created? Because I think that is very important, because for all of us, job is very important. Job, or let's say income. Income on the business, turnover, how much turnover is there in a particular business, did the government have supported? These are very important indicators, because then I know that my quality of life is improving, my well-being is improving. Because if my per capita income is not increasing, my income is not increasing, is stagnating, real income may go down, it may not even increase, then I'm not doing well, I'm doing worse off. So it's very important for me, mapit mo mata kani ka ka column, kani ka investment mo, kani ka sector. Sa uwi ka column book mo how many jobs created, kamde life job opportunities, jobs created. So kani ka sector, okay, kano ka average salary, ka income, bagiyo na ka to. Let's say the company, kano ka turnover mo. I think sa way, are there any social security benefits? If you look in that way, then we know the money is being spent properly. Otherwise, pinangshula investment, you are investing a lot of money. Government is giving a lot of schemes, a lot of subsidies, a lot of loans, but are they bringing in tangible benefit? So when we have that kind of system, we'll know better.
We need more data to
exactly.
We need more data for that, of course. Like for example, how many startups and how they are doing it. So yeah, that is needed, and for that matter, in fact, IIM Shillong provides a lot of training to, as I mentioned earlier also, even we have a program which has students clubs run nurturing minds, where school students are coming to our institute every Saturday, and they are teaching them also. So I mean, what I'm trying to say to this is that there are efforts, but sometimes every effort cannot be even accommodated. But in long run, given what is happening and what at least we are able to see, I'm hopeful that maybe you'll be able to see that, because directly linking everything sometimes becomes very difficult. They are just analysis can be done with the data, right? So that data maybe is the need.
So data will say minta pidon kini political appointees kan ngotai. The let's say I ka pisah to a firm, go ka firm, man yearly can like a survey. You can do a sample survey, for example, of the sectors of work, sector of workers, and how much they're earning and all the benefits they're getting. The like ka survey, pin one let's say haswa one ka budget. Pin ni kaning yung invest kan ka job na create. Minta pi yung create 2.3 lakh job. Hey ka job. Kumbai ba roni clear. How many in the formal sector, informal sector? CME I juba agriculture hang tai, but it seems very informal sector, not formal sector, but I can understand.
Yeah, because the moment I think slowly it will rise. The moment people will get more education, they will be able to get themselves placed in good jobs. So that will happen slowly, because if today we have less people who are below a particular skill or literacy, so slowly when they will, so for that we need provisions, and I think so that is what we could see. For example, giving a lot of salaries also means initial aspect is creating an environment where at least you may not need a big building for teaching and learning initially, but teaching and learning should start happening, and then who will come out to teach? Somebody who will get a salary. So that way also we can have a look at it, that initially the activity should start and slowly we will progress with the infrastructure, and so that way this is how I am analyzing it. So and
basically it is the efficiency of use of that resource through borrowing, deficit financing, whatever you say, whatever you are collecting. And efficiency use, if it is efficiently used, its multiplier effect will be more. And in that process, for that multiplier effect, whether country employment multiplier as you are saying, whether it is a multiplier on the state output, that is NSDP or GSDP, whatever you say, the much of it goes or you can say it is used up for transport also. That's why I always stress on the low cost transport. That is, whatever means available or is possible, that should be adopted. If I spend a certain X amount of money for certain project, and a real expenditure for the production of goods and services is suppose 30-40%, but 40-30% goes for transport, then it is not desirable. Your transport should come down. Another overhead expenditures like the transaction cost. Transaction cost also in many cases is a big burden for this type of project implementation.
Yeah, Professor Paul, I just want to ask you that question since we're talking about debt. So we know that the debt to GSDP ratio is rising, because with the ratio now almost crossing 40%. Now I believe it's already crossed 40%, because the debt to GDP in financial year 23-24 was already 39.9%. So my question is, with the ratio ever increasing, will it not affect our credit ratings? I mean, do you see the initiatives and the programs brought in by the government well strategized in order to ensure that we have financial stability and growth?
So that's why the state should think of it, how to properly utilize the resource, so that can be bridged or brought down. It is there. You need resource. You cannot do without taking the loan or the debt. You have to do. But if it increases, at some point of time, you should not fall in the debt trap. It should not be like that. And it should be used more efficiently so that more revenue can be generated out of the project which is being created by the utilization of such funds. So then I hope they will be able to address it.
Now let's talk about the gross state domestic product. To me, the GDP growth trend as depicted in the budget highlights looks quite impressive, because in the presentation the government said that Meghalaya has significantly grown in the past few years and is given the 11.4% figure. Professor Utpal, are these encouraging numbers that demonstrate the state's pursuit to achieving that
These
target
are
of
all
becoming
everywhere, whatever state or central budget, mostly, it is at current prices that this growth. Now you have to see what is the real rate of growth. That means the inflation is always there. Now after deducting, or you have to calculate it at the constant price, you can see. So what is the growth in the real terms? Then what in the process of this production of these goods and services that comes in the SDP or whatever you say, there we damage environment, we use the natural resources. So if we do not use currently, which is adding, though it is 3 or 4%, not very high, and that's why I was talking about the value addition. Same resources could contribute more. Without extracting more resource, you can contribute more by value addition through that. That should have happened, and it could be more. That sustainable use of resource does not talk about that don't use the resource. You have to use the resource in a sustainable manner. Suppose forest, if you use, you have to go for plantation, so that you can make it again recreate or like that. And though it is a time taking matter, so the plan should be there. So they are also that their depletion of the natural resources, instead of extracting this year, if you could extract next year, so price appreciation of that resources is there, it could add more value. So once you utilize, you are sacrificing, it will not be available anymore in future. So those things you have to address. That's why green GDP concept come, no? So in Meghalaya it is more important. What is the real? It is 10-11%, or that is not that big thing. If at least 4-5% after eliminating all this, then also it could be a reasonable growth. It could be that what I see in my opinion, or 6% if you see. So that at real terms, what is happening, that one has to give stress on that. If you use huge mineral this year, so this year's your GDP growth high, but next year no more mineral, so growth will be less. So whether those minerals that you use today, once I had told, whether the surplus generated you are investing properly. And here most of the mineral resources are privately owned. It goes to the individual's kitty. How much government gets from the that money that they collect per truck that goes, no, it is the some rate is there for different items. So that should be more revenue should come to the government. It should add to that kitty, and that should be utilized for further resource generation. Then multiplier effect will be more. Otherwise it will be one time use and vanished. It will not help much for future growth.
So, Professor Vishaka, according to the budget speech, the Chief Minister said that the GSDP for 24-25 is projected at over 52,000 crore, or 6.6 billion US dollar. So, how do you see this trend? Will we really achieve the target of becoming a $10 billion economy?
Okay, so this is a very a vague, I would say, question, because the fact again depends upon the implementation and how realistic it is, right? So the idea is that sitting here without much data and evaluating the efforts, I don't think so that I have a very yes or no kind of an answer. But yes, I mean the way it is being projected, even the past year's amounts were revised with not much difference. So if the way they have projected it, it is properly implemented, then yes, the efforts are towards that. And the way they have focused on 10 opportunities and 10 guarantees.
Yes.
So that is why initially when I started with this only, that there is a lot of, I mean, it's quite integrated. They are able to map it like, okay, tourism, then connecting with the borders also, and construction of the roads also, and at the same time empowering the people also. Like, you know, one generation may be working in any kind of job that is created, because for example anything that comes up here will create job opportunities. Like for example here we can have a lot of drivers if any new building or any new, you know, educational institution comes up. So people will come from outside, residential opportunities, and so maybe not that kind of opportunities are getting created which you were talking about because of the qualification. But then, so idea is that if such opportunities but the children will start going to school, and ultimately the growth will take place. So that ways, if yes, it is implemented properly, and then you know, things work in order as they are planned, then yes, maybe there is a possibility.
Sebab Bhakturam kuming I kenika GSDP lani kata ka jing yo ko jong ka jelahi bro ka wei kelong ka ba I mean sim kat kum bala kedau ha kenika budget Henry hatu kani bade kala ngila ne men yo ya kenika ke GSDP klaim da pej bade ka jing mi jong ikam komenta unong belas ngi lani kinu bateri kentai kum tu bayo chisngim tu mo makingim tip ki kiu kum no ki kum kum fiong ka per capita income ka jong kingim tip ti klaim da pe kita hatu ngila ban kentiu ka GSDP pede
Kapapyong hadima, GDP can also grow without a lot of job creation. You can just create value. You can have a factory, you can have automation out there. So jobs will not be created, but value will be created. So actually it goes into the calculation. So you can create GDP without much growth in job, but job is very important. Like GDP growth means more value in the economy. So the more value means more higher per capita income, which is also good. But the pay kini ki bayo ki brew, hapo. Jadi ki minimum wage. Minimum wage in pay ki yo kumba let's say mo South Pa ar Tyngka shisngi san 560 rupees per day mo kadi unskilled to highly skilled. The pay kini ki pisak anu ka bishi banai kin yo khandai hajar hadu khalai hajar. Dap se khandai hajar la hajar shisni hashi banai ye bai metri kam tam pay kini ki brew ki ba let's say kitri hain jungi brew. Kitri bela hain jungi brew mo ki bai khulong ki pin khoi ka yeng kanu ki yo ma ki. The pay kili ki bun ki brew ki yo no hindu hajar hinyo hajar. Kim yo ka minimum wage ru. Teka GDP ka daga kiu Henry ki buru ki batrai khamtam ki buru ki batrai ki informal sector mo ki self employed khamtam mata pej bun ki buru mata kila wan hamadan mandi dukan de kitu ki de ki self employed they are entrepreneurs, they're self employed, the people are selling on the streets. In that we can look in that way. Henry de pej kila pasang man weng ki na PB la pasang man weng na lem khala la pasang man weng te pik ong bangi kwa ban pelong entrepreneur ki buru kin mi kam jong la jong de ki pin mi kam jong la jong pim ai la ki but kan minimum wage ru come the heck kata the GDP can grow very good, but who is taking all the value of GDP? Because in page I think there was an inequality report which was published by Niti Aayog. Out of the workforce, only 10% of the workforce gets a salary of more than 25,000 rupees per month. I mean, 90% of the workers are getting less than 25,000 rupees per month. The perkat kata, na kispangut ki benong tray, tang shiphoungut ki de ki ba yo 8% haja shalor. Kiwe ki yo 10,000 and 8% haja shapo. Kalau bandai let's say khasan hajar, 2,000, 5,000, dap dekat tu pisah menteri kamayeng. So kemudian inequality is a very important factor. GDP can grow, but what about the inequality? Kato gini menperkat bah. The same logic apply all over India. Means inequality is growing in Meghalaya also very badly. Especially we don't know 6th schedule protects us from outsiders, but do we protect against our own exploiters, our own people who are exploiting us? How much are they paying their people, the people who are working for them? Kamtan piniki made. Kiniki basyong mahadimadan. We have to increase the minimum wage, in my suggestion, make a living wage. Kadto kapisa, kadno pidipin yo nakiri betri balaru. Kapisa kadi bakidipin yo kadi ban dap ban pendap hayeng. Di ban ba pendap hayeng. Kamakan 2,000 kanyo minimum, kamde kandai hajar minimum. Dalam kumta ki beri kendon pisah poket kila ban pendap hayeng, kila mani hadukan tijing tit kitu kidukan kiba kiu ka business, teka economy wa grow. That is more sustainable because nangingkan ka GDP, ngingkan ka inequality. Kabalawan haka haka jela jongi ngimla ban say whether GDP growth will translate to overall benefit. But inequality is very important. I think that is something we have to acknowledge.
Now, if you talk about where the fund is coming from, if you look at the graph that was projected in the budget highlights, we see that. I don't know, Professor Vishaka, I'll just ask you this question because if you look at the budget highlight, we see that major chunk of the amount of the money comes from the center, be it your central taxes or be it your grant in aids or your central schemes and all of that. So we are heavily dependent on the government of India. So, but if you look at the interim budget, which was presented by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on February 1st, 2024, she had mentioned, yes, that they had projected a share of about 32% of central taxes with states during the financial year of 24-25 against the 15th Finance Commission recommendation of 41%, which Babhaktaram had mentioned earlier. And she also mentioned about the devolution of the funds, which is around 12 lakh crore and all that. But in one of your writings, Babhaktaram, he had mentioned that the devolution of funds or the transfer of funds, it's not in practical, it's not actually like that. It's just over 30%, which that maybe is that the reason that compels these small states to go to the open market and offer loans of higher interest loans and all of that?
As far as the funding is concerned, if it is required, it has to be channelized from some source, right? So it's basically dependent upon the economic conditions that at what rate the particular loan is available, right? So in a particular situation, if a funding is required, right, and it is urgent funding that is required, and the economic situation is such that the loan is available at a higher rate, so it has to be taken at a higher rate. But what may be the cause? It may not be the, may not be one aspect cannot be a cause. That because funding, whatever is promised, has to come timely from the center. That is obviously the need is. But apart from that, beyond that, I think it's more about the conditions in which and the requirement of the urgent requirement need that determines the high rates of loans.
So, Professor Urpal, if you remember clearly, the Chief Minister had time and again reiterated that, most of this money, like the ADB, from the ADB, they are not loans. He kept on reiterating on that fact, they're not loans, they're funds given by this agency. How do you look at it, sir?
These are some concessional funds, some are there, which are given, suppose all may not be repaid, but some are there at some cheaper rate. You can avail it for the development projects. There are different type of schemes are there. World Bank projects are there, schemes are there. That is some one kind of donations also you can say. There you don't need to repay, but some are there for that. You have to take loan. The different type of schemes. And as you were telling that as per the 15th Finance Commission report that this 48% is not given, 41%. So 32 or 33 is given. There is a directly transfer. But center, you can say that then you have to depend on the center on their whims, you can tell. But they are spending, so through central schemes money are coming. So that is much more a bigger amount. If you consider all this, it can be for this type of states, it is much more than 40%. You can see. Only that schemes are implemented in a different way, maybe controlled by the different agencies, and that so that it can be properly implemented. Chances of corruption is less, or different type of.
Yes, since you mentioned that there have been a lot of reports of non-utilization of this fund which is given through the NEC, because we have seen that the non-submission of the UC has caused the state to return the money to the center. So stuff like that happened where we are not able to utilize the
There were
funds.
some non-lapsable fund also there through NEC. So if you know, the non-lapsable means that this year state could not utilize, it can carry over to the next year for some development projects, that your money will be there. It goes back means, it goes back since it is not utilized, it is there with the center, but once they utilize again they give, that there is a requirement. So some type of schemes are there, that is either called the non-lapsable schemes. It was there earlier, I don't know still it is continuing or not now. And another thing is that definitely timely implementation, as I always say in the beginning, that is a big matter. That if somebody takes for months and months, and that is difficult to implement. Another is that allocation on paper is there, the disbursement also should be timely, both side it is. If disbursement come at towards the end of the year, in many cases, that is also not desirable. And from the other side also, if you timely implement, then you can ask for the second or third installment or fourth installment, so that work can continue. There should not be any disruption or of the activities that has been taken, or there is a gap. As in many cases we find some portion works done, then you have to wait for the further fund like that. So those things are there everywhere, not that in one case or two case. Streamlining is very important there. So I don't know whether it is happening here or not, as you are telling, but they should look into it.
Yeah. So, when you look at how the public look at the budget and the assurance given by the government that we are on the right track, to achieve that target of being a $10 billion US economy, because just 2 to 3 days ago we had conducted a poll on YouTube whereby we asked the question whether this budget which was presented by the government will it help the state achieve the target. So over 79% of the people, they voted no, and the remaining is yes. And if you look at the comments, it's very disheartening because the perception of the people is that the state is always in debt. You know, we always have to pay money to other, be it in the power department, be it in the education department. The money that is the state revenue that we're supposed to get, that money is going out to pay the loans, and that is why no vacancies it's being created, no posts are created in the public sector. That's why people are not getting government jobs. That's why no jobs. So the crux of the issue is that it all boils down to unemployment, the unemployment rate in the states, which the government said it's lower than the
Which
national
is
average.
true.
Yesterday.
Government is correct.
But the $10 billion economy by which year?
2028.
2027 8 or 28 29?
2028.
Now, if your 11% rate of growth is materialized, you just calculate how many years it will take. Now it is about 5,000. 5,000 plus. Six though. You are expecting that 24.5 it will be 6 point something. Now it is about 5, so that is 24.5 will be 6.4 or something like that. So 11% you calculate how many years it needed.
I believe there are so many areas that we haven't talked about, or maybe we have touched a little bit here and there. We've talked about connectivity, capital investment. We've talked about tourism. We've talked about education. We've talked about loans and repayment, and the other aspects we've also touched. I believe that some of these, have helped simplify the matter for our viewers, and because of time constraint, I will have to end this discussion. But before ending, I would like a closing remark from each one of you. And I just would like to ask this question, whether this budget, for the benefit of our viewers, can you simplify it, whether this budget is a progressive budget or not?
So I think throughout we talked about it, and now it's very, I think from my side it's obvious that I hope that it's a good budget, and implementation is the key, right? And implementation in the right spirit and cooperation and coordination of everybody is actually something which is very, very important for success of any plan. So as I clearly mentioned, because the real-time data speaks for itself, and we don't have that data. So based on what you just said about the poll, why people have that kind of a feeling, and so that is something that is beyond my analysis. I won't be able to say anything on that. But yes, when I saw this budget, and this whole agenda of $10 billion economy started last year.
Yes.
So it's just 1 year. And a good research should support everybody's viewpoint. That would be the key to yourself, to satisfy yourself, because what real-time data speaks cannot be defied. So that, but if we look at the budget, yes, they are touching all the points, and the kind of allocations are made. They show that yes, the need will be fulfilled, and hence if they are able to achieve that kind of growth as they have promised, then yes, it seems to be a progressive budget.
So definitely it is an optimistic budget. Optimistic, you can say. That's why. As she said also, that it depends on the implementation. All the sectors should come forward. That only infrastructure means road connectivity improved will not be enough. As farmers' income should be doubled, that is also written there. That shows different schemes are undertaken and approaches are there. But suppose farmers are given some facilities, incentives, they produce if they cannot sell in the market. So that your road infrastructure, accessibility to market, all these things, if internal market is not that developed, at least export orientation should be there. So that is for farmers. For the industries, as I said, it should be on the local resource base, so which is demanding here for long period of time, and there should be value addition. Similarly, tourism also should flourish together, that one sector grow, others do not grow, then your multiplier will not work in that manner. And overall, as I said, that we have to look for the avenues for the low-cost transportation. So it's a day-by-day transportation and other transaction costs are eating up much of our allocation of the funds. And that is, I believe. You may not agree with me. So we should see that the state should look for that. And that may not be possible to do in 1 year or 2 years, but approach should be there. And to achieve that growth, as you are saying again, that $10 billion, this, that, as I said, that your forecast is that more double-digit growth, one, that is the numerical, real growth you have to see. And also there is a chance of changing the dollar value. My GDP is growing at 10% rate, and every year, suppose, I am not meaning, that 10% rate your money depreciates against the dollar. Then it is a dollar same, so nothing. So that also has to be intact, that your rupee value has to be maintained. Then only it is possible, no? And that is, some of these things are not in the hands of the states alone. Overall countries, export, import, international trades, all these things, many depends on that. So I hope it is optimistic thing, that states should be able to cope with all the things and create the thing in favor.
Like it looks like a good budget in terms of its presentation. Looks really good, looks like taken concentrated in different areas. My concern is only on jobs. They pick up to speech by CM. Tang lai jaka ikan look a job. And he then wasn't really clear. He was assuming that the job can meet he. So my suggestion is that next time show budget, get a firm to do a sample survey. Jong economy ki bru ki bateri kam. Kat ne ka sector, kat ne ka investment, kat ne ka make job ki bathumai, kat ne ka job opportunities, kat ne ka jobs. Hading kata kat nu ki ka turnover jong ki enterprise ne ka per capita income ne ka monthly salary jong ki. But are they having any social security? Like TA, DA, HRA, DNS allowance, mo increment every year. Dan na kamnan kum kita ki benefit baki yo. Dan kum kata ka table hilaban ong haoy. There is an improvement in the well-being of the people because money is for the people, right? Kani ka pisa bagi sarkar ka penduduk mentara jongi. We are paying our taxes, direct, indirect. I am paying tax. Everyone is paying tax. This is my money, so it should be used for me, for my children, for people around me to create good jobs. And without jobs, it's no point. You can have a GDP going very high, but real income could be going down, inequality could be growing. Don't come, but focus on jobs. So next time, maybe I'll like to see from the opposition party in kuah akan eka table. Investment, jobs, nature of jobs. Dan kata nila ban assess. Yes, the budget has been successful. If not, then we are just talking in the air. That's my opinion. But I think, let's see, let's wait what happens.
Figures and numbers and all.
Yeah, because we don't know what kind of jobs. If I give you 5,000 rupees per month, will you be happy with that? Will you be able to live? Will you be able to have a good life with that? No, not possible. No?
Where the job is created.
Where the job is created, exactly. Yeah.
If you can get
Tangible data, yeah. With the sector, with the investment, this investment has got this many jobs, but these are good quality jobs. In that sense, yes, it will be a success.
Ti parlong angai pila kini gijing keren kini gijing ai jing mot nata sngi bigi jing penshai kila la ban pen sngo thui pi kindiat la da om baro shapang gani kamang tingka but dah kini sngi la dem pelai ka video ka bangi la yale ban betai kam shai halor ka jing mot jong kamang tingka halor ka jing mot jong ka kamang tingka ka beduna ka jing don jong kita ki mang tingka but ke ai ka ba ka sarkar ka thmu bale nang ni shakmat ki ai ta ki jing product jong ka sarkar kom ta ta nga kirpa la da phidang don kinu ki jing bom sngo thu phila ban refer shaka tu ka video bangi na ada ban batai but nakabenta ni gajing krem ta skin da ki don kinu ki points ke ba phim da song tho shai phila ban pha ki comments le phila ban tho ye ki jing bam shai jong phi ki comments ban in sa ye le ban pin shai ye ki baro ti nganget ba ni gajing krem jing ka la ban ka long ka besai so but sashi sen pat ngai khublei ye ki nong yeshim menta jing menta sngi ki bala pelai por knak nang ban ye dar menta ban ngi ban ye le ban batai halor kani ka mang tingka palon ra da ka soka da Mintu Rangba Jong Sarkar Meghalaya u Conrad K Sangma. So once again, I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you for sparing your time to be here with us and for your valuable insights and your expert opinions. And I've also told the viewers that if there are any points that they're not clear, they are free to to drop in the comment, and maybe we can reach out to any of you to get your clarification on the subject matter. Di parlok kudai kapor jong pi baro but tat hadu kawek pat kapor bengi syambat ngadi bagi Mauri nakabenta u Forefront Media.